Easy English audiobook.
Beauty and the Beast. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a wealthy merchant who had 3 daughters. The merchant was a kind and loving father, and his daughters were his pride and joy. The 2 older daughters were very beautiful, but they were also vain and selfish. They cared only for fine clothes, jewelry, and parties. The youngest daughter, however, was different. She was not only beautiful, but also kind, gentle, and selfless. Because of her kind heart, everyone called her Beauty. Beauty loved to read books and spend time in the garden, where she tended to the flowers. She cared little for the fancy things her sisters desired. Instead, she found joy in simple pleasures, such as reading, nature, and helping others. One day, the merchant received news that his ships, which carried valuable goods, had been lost at sea. With this loss, the merchant and his family were left in great poverty. They had to leave their grand home in the city and move to a small cottage in the countryside. The merchant and Beauty adapted to their new life, but the older sisters were unhappy and complained constantly. "How could we be so unlucky? I miss the fine clothes and grand parties," said the first sister, whining. "This cottage is so small and plain. I can't believe we have to live here," complained the second sister. "Father has done his best to provide for us. We should be grateful for what we have," Beauty said gently. The merchant was saddened by the loss of his wealth and the complaints of his older daughters. Beauty, however, comforted him and assured him that they could find happiness in their new life. "We are together, Father, and that is what matters most. I will help with the chores, and we will make the best of our situation," she said with a smile. Time passed, and the family gradually adjusted to their new life. Beauty took on most of the household responsibilities, while her sisters did little to help. They spent their days dreaming of the luxurious life they had lost, while Beauty worked hard to keep the cottage tidy and the garden blooming. One day, the merchant received unexpected news. One of his ships, thought to be lost, had arrived safely at port. The merchant was overjoyed and decided to travel to the city to see if any of the goods could be recovered. Before leaving, he asked his daughters if they wanted him to bring anything back for them. "Bring me a beautiful dress, Father, one made of the finest silk and adorned with jewels," said the first sister excitedly. "And I want a necklace of pearls, the finest in the land," added the second sister eagerly. When the merchant turned to Beauty, she smiled and said, "Father, I only wish for your safe return. But if it is not too much trouble, I would love to have a single rose." The merchant was touched by Beauty's simple request and promised to bring her a rose. He set off on his journey, filled with hope that his fortunes might change. The merchant arrived in the city and learned that most of the goods from the ship had been sold to pay off debts. He was left with very little and realized that his hopes of regaining his wealth were in vain. Saddened, the merchant began his journey home, thinking of how disappointed his daughters would be. On his way back, the merchant became lost in a dark and mysterious forest. The wind howled through the trees, and the air grew cold. Just as he was beginning to despair, he saw a light in the distance. Following the light, he came upon a grand and beautiful castle, its towers reaching up into the sky. "What a magnificent place! But where are the owners? It seems deserted," the merchant thought. To his surprise, no one appeared to greet him, but the merchant found food laid out on a table as if waiting for him. He was hungry and tired from his journey, so he sat down and ate. Afterward, he explored the castle further and found a luxurious bedroom where he could rest. Grateful for the hospitality, he lay down and soon fell asleep. The next morning, when the merchant awoke, he felt refreshed. As he prepared to leave, he remembered Beauty's request for a rose. He stepped outside into the castle's garden, which was filled with the most beautiful roses he had ever seen. The roses were in full bloom, their petals glistening with dew. "Beauty will be so happy to have one of these roses. I must take one for her," he thought. As soon as he picked a rose, he heard a terrible roar. He turned around and saw a fearsome beast standing before him. The beast was tall and covered in thick fur, with sharp claws and teeth. His eyes burned with anger. "How dare you steal from my garden? I welcomed you into my home, and this is how you repay me? For this you shall die, roared the beast. The merchant fell to his knees, trembling with fear. Please forgive me. I only wanted to bring a rose for my daughter. She asked for nothing else, and I did not mean to offend you, the merchant pleaded. The beast's eyes softened slightly at the mention of Beauty's kindness, but he remained stern. I will spare your life, but on one condition. You must send your daughter, the one who asked for the rose, to live with me in this castle. If she does not come, you will pay with your life, the beast said gruffly. The merchant was horrified by the beast's demand. How could he send his beloved daughter to live with such a terrifying creature? But he had no choice. The beast allowed him to leave, and with a heavy heart, the merchant made his way home. When the merchant arrived home, his daughters were eager to see what he had brought them. The older sisters were disappointed when they saw that he had not brought the fine clothes and jewelry they had asked for. Beauty, however, was delighted when she saw the rose. Thank you, Father. It is the most beautiful rose I have ever seen, she said with a smile. But Beauty soon noticed the sadness in her father's eyes. Father, what is wrong? You look so troubled, she asked, concerned. The merchant could not hide the truth any longer. He told his daughters about the beast, the rose, and the terrible bargain he had made. The older sisters were shocked and frightened, but Beauty remained calm. Father, I will go to the beast. It was my request for the rose that caused this, and I cannot let you suffer because of me, she said determinedly. Her father protested, but Beauty was resolute. She knew that she had to keep her promise, no matter how frightened she was. No, Beauty, I cannot let you go. The beast is a monster, the merchant pleaded. Do not worry, Father. I will go willingly. Perhaps the beast is not as terrible as he seems, Beauty replied gently. And so, the next morning, Beauty and her father set off for the beast's castle. The journey was long and difficult, and the closer they got, the more anxious her father became. But Beauty remained calm, comforting her father as they traveled. When they arrived at the castle, the gates opened as if by magic, and Beauty and her father entered. The castle was just as grand and beautiful as her father had described, but Beauty's heart pounded with fear as she thought about the beast. Welcome, Beauty. You have kept your promise, and for that I am grateful. You may stay here in my castle, and your father is free to go. The beast's voice boomed. Beauty trembled at the sound of the beast's voice, but she tried to be brave. She turned to her father and hugged him tightly. Do not worry, Father. I will be all right, she whispered. Her father was heartbroken, but he knew he had no choice. He kissed Beauty goodbye and left the castle, his heart heavy with sorrow. Beauty was now alone in the beast's castle. She wandered through the grand halls, marveling at the beauty of the place, but feeling a deep sense of loneliness. The beast had given her a luxurious bedroom and everything she could possibly need, but she felt like a prisoner. That evening, Beauty was invited to dine with the beast. She was nervous, but she knew she had to face him. When she entered the dining hall, she saw the beast sitting at the head of the table. Despite his fearsome appearance, there was a gentleness in his eyes. Please sit down, Beauty. I hope you will find everything to your liking, the beast said gently. Beauty sat down and began to eat. The food was delicious, but Beauty could not shake her fear of the beast. He was kind and polite, but his appearance was so frightening that she could hardly look at him. As the days passed, Beauty and the beast settled into a routine. Every evening, they dined together and talked. At first, Beauty was too frightened to speak much, but she soon realized that the beast was not as terrible as he seemed. He was kind, intelligent, and thoughtful, and he listened to her with great interest. Tell me about your family, Beauty. What do you miss most about your home? The beast asked curiously. I miss my father the most. He is a good and kind man, and I worry about him being alone. I also miss the simple life we had, tending the garden and reading books. Beauty replied thoughtfully. You have a kind heart, Beauty. I can see why your father loves you so much, the beast said softly. As the weeks turned into months, Beauty began to feel more at ease in the beast's castle. She spent her days exploring the gardens, reading in the grand library, and even learning to play the piano. The Beast was always kind to her, and he made sure she had everything she needed. But every night, after dinner, the Beast would ask Beauty the same question. "Beauty, will you marry me?" the Beast asked hesitantly. And every night, Beauty would give the same answer. "I am sorry, Beast. I cannot marry you," she replied gently. The Beast would sigh deeply but never became angry. He would simply nod and change the subject. Despite his disappointment, he continued to treat Beauty with kindness and respect. One day, Beauty found a magical mirror in the castle. The Beast explained that the mirror could show her anything she wished to see. "If you wish to see your family, simply look into the mirror and it will show you how they are," the Beast said softly. Beauty eagerly took the mirror and asked to see her father. To her dismay, she saw that her father was ill and heartbroken, missing her terribly. "Oh, Beast, my father is sick and alone. I must go to him," Beauty said, worried. The Beast saw the sadness in Beauty's eyes and could not bear to see her unhappy. "You may go to your father, Beauty, but promise me that you will return in a week," the Beast sighed. Beauty was overjoyed and promised the Beast that she would return. She thanked him and quickly prepared to leave. The Beast gave her a beautiful golden ring and told her that if she ever wanted to return, she only needed to turn the ring on her finger 3 times, and she would be back at the castle. Beauty returned home and was reunited with her father. He was overjoyed to see her, and her presence brought him great comfort. Under Beauty's care, her father soon recovered from his illness. Beauty's sisters, however, were not pleased to see her. They were jealous of the fine clothes and jewels she had brought back from the castle and were angry that she had returned looking so happy and healthy. "How could she be so content after living with that Beast?" said the first sister jealously. "I wish I had her luck. I want those fine clothes and jewels," added the second sister enviously. The sisters devised a plan to keep Beauty from returning to the Beast. They pretended to be very affectionate and begged her to stay longer, hoping that the Beast would grow angry if she broke her promise. "Oh, Beauty, we have missed you so much. Please stay with us a little longer," said the first sister sweetly. "Yes, Beauty, don't leave us again so soon," pleaded the second sister. Beauty, touched by her sister's apparent affection, decided to stay a few more days. But as the week passed, she began to feel uneasy. She had a strange dream in which she saw the Beast lying in the garden, weak and dying. He looked at her with sad eyes and whispered her name. "Beauty. Why did you break your promise?" the Beast whispered weakly in the dream. Beauty woke up in a panic, realizing that she had broken her promise to the Beast. She knew she had to return to the castle immediately. "I must go back. The Beast needs me," she said frantically. She quickly turned the golden ring on her finger 3 times, and in an instant, she was back in the Beast's castle. She ran through the halls, calling out for the Beast, but there was no answer. Finally, she found him in the garden, just as she had seen in her dream. The Beast was lying on the ground, weak and pale, his breathing shallow. "Oh, Beast, I am so sorry. Please don't die." Beauty sobbed. The Beast opened his eyes and looked at Beauty with great sadness. "You came back. I am glad. I wanted to see you one last time," the Beast said weakly. Beauty realized in that moment how much she cared for the Beast. She had grown to love him, not for his appearance, but for his kind heart and gentle soul. "No, Beast, you must not die. I love you. I will marry you. Please stay with me," she cried. As Beauty spoke these words, a magical transformation began. The Beast's body was enveloped in a bright golden light. Beauty watched in amazement as the Beast's form changed before her eyes. When the light faded, the Beast was gone, and in his place stood a handsome prince. "Beauty, you have broken the curse. Your love has saved me," the prince said, smiling. Beauty was astonished. She could hardly believe her eyes. "You are the Beast? How is this possible?" she asked in awe. The prince explained that he had been cursed by a wicked fairy who had turned him into a beast because of his pride and selfishness. The curse could only be broken if someone loved him for who he was, despite his appearance. Beauty's love had broken the curse, and he was now free. You saw beyond my appearance and loved me for who I truly am. For that, I will be forever grateful, the prince said gratefully. Beauty and the prince returned to the castle, where they were greeted by the servants who had also been freed from the curse. The castle, once dark and gloomy, was now filled with light and joy. Beauty and the prince were soon married in a grand celebration, attended by her father and all the villagers. The older sisters, who had been so cruel and jealous, were ashamed of their behavior and learned to be kinder and more humble. Beauty and the prince lived happily ever after, ruling the kingdom with kindness and wisdom. Beauty's love and compassion had not only saved the prince, but had also brought peace and happiness to the entire kingdom. I have found my true love, not in a handsome face, but in a kind and loving heart, Beauty said happily. And I have learned that true beauty comes from within, the prince added, smiling. And so, the tale of Beauty and the Beast became a legend, passed down through the ages, reminding everyone that love and kindness can break even the most powerful of curses.